Hey everyone, welcome back to another Tech Talk with Brandon. And today I'm excited to walk through a really interesting platform called OpinionX with Daniel. Daniel is a co-founder of OpinionX, and I actually learned about this product a few months ago. And basically, it's Surveys Reimagined, a place that you can more easily be able to identify trends and discover more about your audience without having to deal with messy, spreadsheets. We all know we've all sent out that survey or tried to do some audience research, customer research, and we got back hundreds of results. And going through all the answers, trying to make sense of that information is always a cumbersome process. OpinionX seeks to make that a more streamlined and more scientifically backed approach using mixed method research. So, Daniel, let's walk through this platform. This will talk a little bit about kind of why did you create this platform? If you just give a 30-second kind of what is the big picture for this platform? How is it actually going to add value for someone? Why did you create it?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Brandon. I'm really passionate about startups. It's something that I've been really passionate about for years. And what OpinionX really seeks to do is to help founders and product teams to validate their ideas, to build better products, and to work towards product market fit. And the way we're doing that is, like you said, a reimagined survey that helps those guys to take problems and their value proposition and understand how important those are from the perspective of their target customers, which really is like the foundational layer of any successful startup. So that's really why we started. I could share my screen and walk through a little bit about our own journey and how we came to be so interested in this space as well. So like I said, my name is Daniel. I'm the CEO of OpinionX. And as a co-founder of an early stage startup, I basically spent the whole last year just obsessively trying to figure out what problems my target set of users have so that I could validate the idea behind OpinionX, build a better product, and work towards that product market fit that's so elusive. So like a lot of startup founders, I started off with this great book. It's something that everybody in the industry ends up hitting at one point, it seems. I'd say I reread it like 5 or 6 times at this stage, and I ended up taking the principles of the MOM test and how it tells us to do customer discovery, and I applied it for customer discovery. So I ended up having over 100 interviews over the last year, and these are all the transcripts of those interviews, and we just did it for months, meeting as many people in target areas and really trying to understand what their problems and pain points were. And that led us to creating landing page after landing page and different launch strategies and different types of cold emails. But time after time, we just couldn't get it to work. We couldn't get people to try out the product. So what we ended up doing is we decided to use our own product to try and stack rank all of the problems that product managers have so that we could figure out where our value proposition fell within their priorities. So what we did is, on OpinionX, we set up a survey and we asked what is the most, or what are the biggest challenges that you face as a product manager? And we kind of brainstormed some of the big problems that we had seen that came up in those user interviews and from some of the research that we had done as well over the past few months. And we threw that all together into a survey, and we just grabbed the link like this, and we sent it out to every single product manager that we could get in front of. And when those product managers jump onto an OpinionX survey, it works a little bit differently to the likes of a SurveyMonkey or Typeform. So what you get are these statement-based like voting options. And every statement that you vote on is actually something that one of the other participants has added. So it's a little bit like a social survey in that front. It's all built by the participants who are getting involved in it. And as a participant, you vote in 2 different ways. So you get one opinion and you say whether you agree or disagree with it. And then you'll get other ones where it gives you 2 different opinions and you have to say which one of these matters most to you. So it's what we call like a pair choice vote. And then, like I said, I can also add my own opinion and grow the survey because there might be like a challenge I faced that I didn't see come up in the options that I was able to vote on. So that's how it works from like the survey perspective as a participant. But then as the survey creator, I'm able to take all of those opinions and in one click, essentially, just see which of them are most important to my participants. And then what this actually showed us, within like 2 hours, it was already clear that our value proposition, which you could see here, which was like identify your users' unmet needs, was like the big use case that we were going after, and speed. So in just one click was kind of the value up aspect of what we were working on. If I rank these by what's least important, they're just both really, really low in our target users' priorities. Like, we were talking about something that our own users just did not care about. And that explains a lot about why we weren't able to push people across the line and give the product a try. But then when we look at what was most important, we see a lot of the same use cases, but just from a completely different vocabulary. And I think this really hits home that at the end of the day, if you're not using the language your users use, and not really understanding the way they approach it, you can have the best product in the world, but they're just not going to pay any attention to it.
And those statements too on the left, those are ones that someone else has generated, or the ones that you put on there?
So this is a combination right here. So the ones that have sample written beside them are ones that we added as admins. Now, those are a little bit of a combination. So we only added about 10 at the very start. Then when people added new opinions, if some of them had little typos or things, we would edit them and they'd go back in as a sample opinion in that case. And then based on some of these empty ones you can see here, which were user generated ones, we'd also realize new things and we'd add even more sample opinions to explore a space that was kind of highlighted by something that a participant had added. So it's kind of a dynamic combination of the two.
Okay, great. And so you're saying too, it's what is the benefit you think overall of, you said, I think you hinted at a little bit with this, adding those opinions, the user information, it's a more streamlined way to do that versus the typical survey, which is kind of just fill all this in and then here's all the raw data that you get as a, product manager or anyone else. It's kind of that cumbersome or that overwhelming of, doc of hundreds of rows, maybe thousands of rows. What is the big value, the big benefit of using something like OpinionX versus that survey or other, normal or regular typed form?
So from the perspective of a lot of early stage companies, when you try to think of a space and try to map out the things that you know, you're just flooded by unknowns. There's so many things that you just don't know yet. And then if you try and bring this research into a traditional survey tool, you're kind of forced to go one of two ways. So you're forced to go for a multiple choice question where you just set what you kind of know, but you might be missing all of these things you don't even know to ask about. But the analysis is really easy and it's really actionable and fast. Or you go for the open-ended route and you really prioritize finding those unknowns. But like you said, you end up just with an enormous spreadsheet of unstructured opinions. And the only way you can really analyze them is either like a word cloud, which essentially tells you nothing, or spend a week going like row by row, grouping them into teams and trying to figure out which teams come up most. And I mean, I've done that. It's an extremely painful process. So what OpinionX does is it gives you the beauty of both of those. So you get the open-ended part where you get to learn new things, but because those new things get voted on by other participants, you get all of the stats and the data that allows you to like one-click analyze everything as if you had included it as a multiple choice question from the start. So it's kind of like this hybrid of the two that's really built for like a new way of doing research.
Gotcha. Great.
Cool. That's kind of like a quick run through of how the platform itself works. There's a lot more built in, things like moderation tools to help you manage the conversation. But overall, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of how an OpinionX survey works.
And the kind of if you were looking at a survey result, big picture, that tab that you were on earlier with the answers, is that kind of where you would go to see that? And also kind of what does it look like to share, if you are sharing results with multiple team members, what does that kind of experience look like?
Yeah, both very good questions. I mean, these are things that we're really exploring at the moment to figure out how we're going to like level up those different uses of the product. So right now, the analysis really does work from that opinions table that we just saw. That's the main way it works. We built in some tools to help you kind of segment the data in different ways, whether it's by using filters or and tagging, or using the different like metrics that are built into the system. There are export options as well for pulling it out as like a quick Excel that you can send around to the team that kind of takes all of these metrics in a really digestible way. But we're exploring so many different ways to do procedurally generated PowerPoint decks to kind of make that process easier. So that's all coming down the line for us in the near future.
Great. Well, this is a really exciting platform. I'm excited to see more people use it, and I can already feel like I can get a lot of use cases out of it. With, again, I hate the typical Excel dump sheet is what I call it, of just information that really you have to make sense of, which is always difficult. And I'm always afraid that I'm going to be strongly looking at other things, like certain responses more than others, and not understanding more of that kind of consensus like approach, and having more of that data, that analytics being done for me, that analysis being done for me by you, by OpinionX, which is, I think, a big value add. So thank you so much for jumping on this demo. Anything else you'd like the audience to know? If they are interested in OpinionX, what are their next steps?
Yeah, so the great thing about OpinionX is it's free to start. I've made a survey from start to finish in under 30 seconds before, from creating an account all the way to having a link ready to share. So it's a super easy process to jump in and just try out for yourself, which is what I really, really recommend. And it's a very versatile product. So whether you want to use it to kind of tailor the messaging that you're already using, or you're much earlier on in the process of scoping out a new product or feature, and you want to understand which priority pain point you're trying to solve, it really works across that whole gambit. So I think the best way to really understand it is just jump in and give it a try yourself.
Great. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you at the next Tech Talk.